One cheeseburger, one Pepsi, one cheap.
Cheeseburger.
Pepsi, cheap. What do you want?
I like a cheeseburger and a small Coke.
No Coke, Pepsi.
Pepsi.
One cheeseburger, one Pepsi.
Cheeseburger.
Pepsi.
Cheeseburger, 4 Pepsi, 2 cheap.
Cheeseburger.
2 Pepsi, 1 cheap.
Hi, Pete.
Hey.
I'll have the usual.
Cheeseburger.
Yes, welcome to another edition of Tony Caravan Live. And
Tony Caravan. You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need and not what you don't.
yeah, just what you need and not what you don't. It was the late great John Belushi on when SNL actually was a funny show. That clip was pulled together by the legendary Tattoo, image man, producer extraordinaire. Find him on locals.com and send him $1 million. Yesterday's show was kind of insane. I mean, I watched, while I was going through it, I was very apologetic. But when I watched the playback, I mean, it wasn't that bad. I mean, I did lose my mind at one point when I was doing this thing. I mean, that was kind of really weird.
Hey, it's me. How you doing, man?
I'm over it. It's a new day. It's a new dawn. It's birthday week. Hey, it's birthday week. I don't have any sound effects for that, though. So, but it's going to be fun.
We're on a mission from God. Next time it may be different. You believe me, boy, there'll be a next time. You believe me, boy, there'll be a next time.
It's gonna be fun.
Every day is a fun day.
Every day this week's going to be a fun day. I'm looking down and writing in my planting record for 2021, as you can see. This is one of those things that I like kind of prove my this is my scientific method of combating the climate alarmists. So I'm putting down yesterday. June 1st was in the low 70s, and mostly cloudy. And it's currently it's 57 degrees outside. And if we can get rid of the Dow Jones stock, the stock market is at 34.5 for those who follow that. I still can't believe the Nasdaq's up to 13,000. I mean, S&P 4,200. All that stuff's going to crash and burn. But weather-wise, those interested in the weather, it's here in. Some people have. The question is, this is like a friend of mine did. They have an event where I used to live in this town northwest of here. And they used to have the Northern Appalachian like music fest or folk festival or something like that. And then I hear people refer to, the Alleghenies. But the Alleghenies aren't here. This is like at the Appalachian Mountain ranges. I'm surrounded by the Appalachian Mountain ranges. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. It's weird. I ended up here because I became like a creative director of an advertising agency, like where I am right now. This is like 20 years ago. And I was still active and still traveling at that point. But I mean, that was like, somehow it was like a base of operations. And I was assuming, I mean, I didn't begin as a creative director. I kind of came in as like a cleanup guy, like what I did in a lot of instances throughout my life. Guy who comes in, company's completely, totally out of control, makes sense of it, gets it in order, and that's that. And but ended up hanging out afterwards. After I traveled, I think I went down to Florida for a while, and some other stuff like that. But somehow I ended up back here because real estate was super cheap, and like I keep telling you, I have a house I bought where my taxes, mortgage, and insurance are less than $200 a month. So I mean, what can you say? It's pretty crazy. So that's how I got here.
Your papers, please.
And I don't have any papers. So it's looking like there's a good chance of thunderstorms during the week, but the weekend is going to be summer. So we'll get to that later on in the week. But just to give you a little sneak of that. But in the meantime, today it's supposed to get up to about 73 degrees, overnight 61. It's pretty much calling for rain today, which is good for me and good for the garden. I showed you a garden picture yesterday. I think I might have one if this thing works. The thing that got me bent out of shape yesterday, plus the fact that I had lost sleep. You miss that hour or two of sleep, and it just totally throws you off kilter and makes you a little bit angry. Now, remember,
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
So this is the show where the handkerchief comes out. And however healthy, la, 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 la. I try. See, the voice is fantastic. The opera. Look how loud that voice is and how strong those notes are. And he even has that's not a good note. Has a ring. Ba ba da ba ba dang a dang dang a ding a dong ding blue moo. Now see, that's a note I can't get. So is it possible to be kind of messed up my ears with that? Cloudy and lows in the 50s. So what I'm trying to get at is that, I've been keeping these, other people have been keeping these kinds of things. All right. And yet, these people who go out there professing climate crisis from like a 15-year-old movie that Al Gore made, I'm sorry about this thing. I don't know why. It's like I'm not, it's the morning. It's like my shirt. This is actually a cool shirt. It's got designs on it. Interested. But I don't know why that's my hang out in the yard, get a suntan shirt. Just keeps poking through. So forgive me. Dang me. Dang me. They ought to get a rope and hang me. It's the same old stuff every day. Every day it's the same old thing. For crying out loud, can't you come up with something new? It's ridiculous, I know. And away we go into the show. Let's look at the description down below, because this is kind of interesting. So that this way to the beach. And I'm talking today, it's June 2nd, 2021, for those finding this archive somewhere buried under 2 miles of ice, somehow on some weird server piece that survived and you actually know how to play it. It says Living in the Moment, which is like a good name for a song. Living in the Moment. I got to write that down, actually. You know, living in the moment. Man out of time. The most important thing you can do in your life, if you want to be truly happy and fulfilled, is to recognize those moments when you are and sustain them. Like, more on this in today's video. That's what the description says. Then there's all kinds of links there, including a link to my Instagram account, which has some of the latest pictures from my garden, in case you're interested in that kind of thing. My book codex is over there. You know, every morning I come down here. Well, let's just expect we're going to see this green thing because I don't know what the heck's going on. I give up. Hey, Maggie, how you doing? I'm sorry I haven't talked to you in a couple of days. I passed out yesterday afternoon. I did everything I want. Yeah, but yesterday was a very productive day, despite the morning mayhem. And we always usually start the show out this way. So anybody who's a regular.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
Just give you a little update on my life. Because yesterday was insane. I didn't put links to it on any social media sites because I was kind of felt bad. But, like I say, this show has been reviewed as one of the most brutally honest shows out there. And so why not? And it's under people and blogs. A little slight pain there in the heath. It comes and goes. I'm waiting for the nerve to die. I don't know if that's an urban legend or not. I was talking to my mother or somebody who said that. Well, maybe the nerve. This is the last time, like a year. Last time I had a tooth pulled, this was like over a year or so ago. Well, maybe the nerve died. It's one of those things that sounds good and you're hopeful about. Yeah, that would be great. Let the nerve die and let the tooth just be there as long as it doesn't break up. As long as I can keep eating a sandwich and a bag of chips. I ate a bunch of Cheez-It, those little Cheez-It square crackers with some hummus. I used to make homemade hummus, which was like killer. And I made a lot of homemade salsa and still do and probably will. But I don't get that many visitors to my bar. And so it's hard to get motivated to make like these kinds of delicacy type of things, by your lonesome. And that's one of those things that today's show is going to talk about. But we're going to try to keep it as light as possible. Knock my headphones off. See if we can tighten them. Keep everything in order. Try to keep that green thing away from you because I know that disturbs some people. Maybe it doesn't look manly enough for you or something. The fluorescent green thing. It's like, look, man, I live alone with a cat, and I got a yard out there. It's supposed to rain today. And what I do is if the sun comes out, I make a dash for the patio, open up the lounge chair and try to grab those 20 minutes of sun and get that, UVB rays, because I'll tell you, it's good for you. I mean, currently I have a pretty good suntan, but these, non-studio lights just don't show it. Remember, we've also decided that as much as I would like to hide it, I almost felt the belch coming on there. I'm not going to do it. And what I'm trying to say is, I fell asleep yesterday because yesterday was madness. I woke up at 3 a.m. and it was one of those things where when you do that, it's like kind of worse than a hangover, or the equivalent of a hangover. All right. I'm just going to have to do something so this just doesn't keep happening. Let's see if we can do that. That help? Yeah, that's gone now. That'll just feel weird for me. So a friend came down. I needed to get a bag of mulch. I needed to get bird seed. And again, hanging there. This show is going to be a very interesting topic. I'm going to talk about vlogging for the lonely. And I'm also going to talk about happiness and how to find true happiness. And when you're done with this show, you're gonna say, "Wow, that's great." And it's hard to believe that it came from a guy burping, not from some, guru or some beautiful woman with a red dot, on the top of her head who was in one of these Indian waters, not the Ganges. Well, anyway, that's what I woke up to yesterday when I kind of passed out on my bed because I was watching the end of my YouTube video or somebody else's YouTube video. And I just laid down on my bed because that's what I have YouTube on the TV because I cut the cord. I don't have cable TV. And I woke up. I had no idea how long I passed out. I could have passed out for, they call it a power nap, but it wasn't intentional. But I could have been out for 20 minutes. I could have been out for 45 minutes. I have no idea. All I know is I gradually woke up, and it was like, that was necessary. It wasn't like I felt totally refreshed or anything, but it was like, yeah, I needed that. And there was this talk, and there was this guy Lipton, and then there was this woman in the classic, like kind of Buddhist, kind of orangey thing with the red dot in the center of her head. And there was a crowd of people there, and they were mostly very young people, and it was some kind of talk, and some guy was interviewing them kind of, and they were in some kind of tent, and apparently it was over in India, and they were talking about some river, and I don't know. But when I was listening to this guy, I was thinking, as I woke up to this, I'm going, did this guy actually see my videos? Because, and so you stop on when you're watching on TV, a smart TV type of thing. I don't have a smart TV, but I'm using a set-top box thing, one of those Amazon Fire Stick things, whatever the hell it is. It's probably I don't even know it's the latest version. So you have to stop it, and then stuff comes up on the screen, right? You could see, the title of it. That's how you can also you can navigate to like it, but you can't do too much more. Like you could watch sometimes if somebody has chat on, but you can't chat or anything, at least not on my TV. So I stopped it because I wanted to see the date because I'm thinking, is this happening? Like this video just happened this week or something? Did this guy actually see my video? Because what he was saying, it was uncanny. And it was like from 2017, like 4 years ago, this interview they were having these people. And it was like, it's really intense. And all these people were watching. They're really into it. I got no viewers, right? Except an algorithm to see if I'm like, I keep in line, right? The NSA is my most, dedicated fan. For no known reason either, right? Since I'm a Boy Scout. So he was talking about the same things I talk about and I'm going to talk about them today again too, because, it made me realize that as frustrated as I got yesterday with like everything happening weird and feeling a certain way, but he got into the consciousness, the subconscious as like a programming thing he was talking about. And it's like, I thought I just came up with that, I mean, scientifically and all, and I guess in my reading and research and stuff, but I mean, it was just, the way he said it, it was it was just uncanny, and in one respect, it was very refreshing. So it's kind of like, the way he said it. Are you getting what I might be leading up to?
Really funny. Really funny. What do you mean I'm funny? It's funny, it's a good story. It's funny. You're a funny guy.
What do you mean? You mean the way I talk? What?
It's just, you're just funny. It's funny, the way you tell the story and everything.
Funny how? I mean, what's funny about it?
Tommy, no, you got it all wrong.
Anthony.
He's a big
He's a
boy.
big
He knows
boy.
what he said. What'd you say?
You're right.
Funny how? What?
Just, you're funny.
You mean,
So?
let me understand this, because maybe it's me, I'm a little fucked up, maybe. But I'm funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you. I make you laugh. I'm here to fucking amuse you. What do you mean funny? Funny how? How am I funny?
Not just, how you tell a story. What?
No, I don't know. You said it. How do I know? You said I'm funny. How the fuck am I funny? What the fuck is so funny about me? Tell me. Tell me what's funny.
Get the fuck out of here, Tommy.
You motherfucker.
How you tell a story and all. So anyway, I know some people take offense to that kind of stuff, but So anyway, there's a couple of enlightenment things came out of this. So it was thought provoking. And I hope my videos do the same thing for you. Is that I can't change who I am. I'm not going to become some kind of guru. Even though I believe strongly in these things, and these videos, believe it or not, I kind of like, if you had to categorize them, there's more or less self-help videos, if you think about it. And I've said this before, that they function as self-help videos even for me, the process of this. And I want to share a little bit about that today. I've shared a little bit about it in the past. But that at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and wear a tie or a robe, or put a dot in the middle of my head. Okay? Because that's simply not me. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. Hiccup. It's my birthday week, if I didn't say that before. So instead of having a bowl of cereal for breakfast, I had some potato salad with some whipped chive cream cheese mixed in with it. I had a couple forkfuls of that. And then I have these rolls I bought a couple of days ago. And I don't know what they put in them, but they're still kind of fresh. It's weird. So I had one of those rolls and I put some of that pepper jack cheese on top of it. And I have this sauce. See, I have a lot of stuff in my refrigerator that I have to eat. That's why I ate the hummus yesterday, because it was like the date was like, it was 1 day behind, the sell date or sell by. That ever happened to you, where you're refrigerating, you're looking, you got all this food. It's like, no wonder I'm not losing weight. And you don't want to throw it away, right? Because it's a waste. There's people starving in India, speaking of which, the classic thing. So the second thing, I took this bread, this like roll. It's kind of like a hot dog looking roll, which I think they were homemade hot dog rolls from this grocery store. They were on like this rack when I went down. So it was probably for Memorial Day. They made these things, but whoever the baker was, like they were flattened out and stuff. It was a failure. So they weren't that expensive and I just bought them, but they were fresh. So the guy had down how to make a nice fresh roll, but he just didn't know how to like put it on a rack and mold it so it really looked like a hot dog roll or whatever. I still have one left. I've been eating them for a couple of days and it was only there were only 4 or 5 in there or something. I'd eaten them for like 3 days, one a day, or I don't know. One day I might have ate it 2 sandwiches out of them. So I took some pepper jack cheese, put it on top of it, opened it up flatly, which wasn't hard to do because they're pretty much flattened. Put it in the microwave and melted that. And then I have this sauce I got, this jar of sauce. It's real tasty. Store-bought sauce. Excuse me. And I'm like I say, I'm pretty much a gourmet, a self-made gourmet, cook, chef, whatever you want to say. I mean, I don't have training. My training is the fact that I've been feeding myself for decades. So you just learn how to do things. It's just the way it is. And put it in the microwave, and that's what I had, this sauce, real tasty sauce. Better than my homemade. And my homemade sauce is like the stuff that killed Elvis, Right.
Elvis has left the building.
And so that's what I had for breakfast. So I'm sure there'll be some more belches to follow. But what I'm trying to say about this, and I'm going to go to the videotape. No, I'm going to go do what we did yesterday with the that got me so upset. And the thing is, I don't really get upset. I do get upset. We're all flawed human beings. All right. But let's turn screen mirroring on. You've seen this thing. Apple TV. And so far, we've been having a lot of luck. And it hasn't been stealing our bandwidth. But it is later in the day, so I don't know if more people are using this or not. And I guess I need to remove this from the its sheath. Whatever the heck it is. Should have done that before. I have it plugged in because when I woke up this morning. All right. There's the title card that should have brought many of you to the show. It says The Morning Show. Kick back and enjoy the show. And yeah. And these are definitely popcorn, or if it's, if you're watching this live in the morning, you probably don't need any popcorn. But if it's later in the day, yeah, it's a popcorn-worthy show because they last 2 hours. It's like a movie. So there's a couple of things. These are just some images I'm going to talk about because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to catch up on things that I've talked about in the past or alluded to, and I didn't have photos because I didn't have this system working. I finally got it working, and believe me, it's not the greatest. And that combination of pepper jack cheese and sauce and whatever, and on top of these sodas is like kind of not working out too well on my stomach. But I shall persevere. Endeavor to persevere. So these are some images. Some of these aren't too pleasant. Well, not that they're. One isn't. This one isn't. Okay. Remember I told you I had this. So this ties into what I said earlier, how I came to this locale. It was this advertising agency that was out of control, and they needed a fixer to come in and pretty much, and that's me. Okay. And for you, people like listening in on this, different kind of fixer. Okay. Well, anyway, when I went to it, this is what I found. this guy was a hoarder. You see a little bit of that white floor there. Those were like ceramic, beautiful white ceramic tiles. Look at this stuff. This is like he just threw everything on this was this garbage. I mean, this is beyond a hoarder. You know, sometimes you see these TV show hoarders things, or I did years ago when I had TV. And it would be some woman or something, and it'd just be stacks of newspapers and boxes and all kinds of things. And yeah, there'd be like maybe one in the kitchen would be filthy, a lot of, whatever. But I mean, it was never like this freaky, I mean, we're talking freaky. I'm going to try to lighten this up again, because I think yesterday I just brighten it up a little. That may mess up some other pictures, but it needed to be brightened up. I mean, just the pure depth of filth. He never cleaned up anything. Now, this one is this is even worse yet. This here was like my front office area. You can see there's even a sign there because when I was there, we also offered faxes and stuff for people. We used to make like maybe $100, $200 a month just on faxes. Because all these people had to send. This is not a long time ago, because like the government requires, people who are trying to get assistance, vets, and other people compensation and stuff like that. They just require them to fax in all these forms to like Harrisburg or something. These people have no way of getting to Harrisburg, so they say fax them, and they have to fax like 36 pages. And like the going rate for a fax is like $1 a page. Of course, I wasn't that cruel. I would give them a discount. But still, if somebody came in with a 36 pages of faxes, I'd still charge them like 15 some bucks or something, even give them half for a price rate. But, there's counters there, and this is the floor. I mean, this is where you used to stand. Could you imagine that? And that's 2 rooms out of an entire, this was an advertising agency. In other words, this was lease purchase to this guy. I mean, the entire building. And below I had this condo and this bar that I had like put in because I was living in the place at the, not at this time, but years ago. Because I got tired of staying in hotels, and we had a construction guy who was remodeling the upstairs. And I got him downstairs to help carve out, a space, and I had it like custom designed like a 4-star, 5-star condominium hotel room. And when I lived there, it was like living in this beautiful hotel room. And that place was trashed when I went in there. And I had this bar built by these, they were plumbers, but they also did remodeling stuff. And so I had like an mini Irish pub, authentic Irish pub put in the basement next to this condo, a 5-star hotel room that I put in. And a friend of mine who owned an Irish pub, gave me all the like boxes of, all the stuff that the beer companies and stuff would give them. And so I had like the mirror behind the bar, it was like all the accoutrement, and the proper stuff. It was amazing. I don't know why I can't, I don't know why I say that. This is one of those days, put it that way. For no known reason. It's birthday week. I'm planning on drinking twice this week since it's birthday week. One will be today, and one will probably be on the weekend, towards the weekend. Now, obviously, the brightness is too high. Why, you dirty good for nothing? I could almost do this now without turning back. Yeah. That wrong way. We want, I don't want to go that much. Let's split the difference somewhere around there. All right. So what this says here, pardon my frustration. Don't be frustrated at anything. The media and corporatocracy at work. And of course, as you should be familiar with, but probably kids aren't even familiar with this anymore. The Pied Piper leading people, right? And that's really what the education system is doing right now, right? And the media and the corporatocracy is doing this to adults. I may have shown that picture in the past. And this is one of my favorite. Of course it was a bioweapon. You know, David Icke was right. This is might be a little bit hard to see, but this is like a boat. This is the going to Antarctica, what it's like. Look at those waves. Could you imagine being on a boat? You'd be like scared shitless. But when you get there, this is what it looks like. This is for these like people like, that don't believe Antarctica exists or that the earth is flat. Right? It's a beautiful continent. It's a beautiful continent. It's one of the most pristine and beautiful places on earth, actually. That's look how crystal clear the water is, the ice, the snow. The guys who go down there and they ski and stuff, it's like, they just love it. And this is yours truly at my kitchen, my bar that I have in the, that I talk about. And you can see there's a wooden, wooden bar. This is my kitchen. And of course it says the bar's open, come on down. And this is my life is a surrealistic nightmare. This is what happens if you don't ever clear your throat. That's another idea, isn't it? This was the title card for my surrealistic nightmare album. I think I used this for Bigger Than That song. That's this one. Features. Where is it? Surrealistic Nightmare. That's a great tune. Let's skip ahead. Jobs and place to go. The ending of it is the coolest thing in the world, which I need to go back to the original master and extend this. Right here. I know some of that stuff doesn't come over really well in the translation. It's probably something they do intentional. But, we were talking about the garden again, and I just wanted to reiterate, because I may get into this. But what a beautiful place. Forget about the grapes. We're just hoping, keep our fingers crossed about the grapes. But look at this place. And of course, there's a bunny rabbit there, Mr. Bunny. I don't know if I talked. See, Mr. Bunny? My apple tree. Talked about yesterday briefly. That's my house in the background. It's the only house like that kind of in the neighborhood. And of course, this is what I'll be doing again today. And I left this in from yesterday. Bought some cigars yesterday. And of course, the girls on the beach. And there's a method to this madness. I just want to get this out of the way. The beat poetry thing, I don't even know if that's available still. And then last but not least, you don't know what you don't know. It's birthday week. Why do you want to give me a birthday present? Go to TonyCaravanLive.com and get one of those shirts. Your friends will appreciate it. Okay? How do I get out of this? And great solar stuff. You can get all this crazy stuff there, and your life will be much better for it. So anyway, that's that. I'm going to stop mirroring and turn this thing off. And somehow it's gotten up to 100%. You tell me how it was at 85% when I started, and now it's at 100% charge. So having the mirroring on, did that charge it somehow? I have no idea. All right, so I got that out of the way. You've got some images in your mind. I'm still the same idiotic person in this show. Is this still the madness, and will remain the madness that it has been? But now I want to get into this thing. So let's just look at this thing one more time. The most important thing you can do in your life if you want to be truly happy and fulfilled is to recognize those moments when you are and sustain them. And so there's 3 or 4 things. So yesterday, this video that I watched, it was uncanny that, these together people, like I say, I'm not one, I had that experience. I told a long, long time ago. This is months ago. I told that experience when I first went to one of the first times I went to LA. It might have been the first. I don't know. And I was staying in this Beverly Hills, it's hard to call a Beverly Hills, say flop house in Beverly Hills, because it was 1 block over from Rodeo Drive. But it was run by this former actress who I think had a Vegas act too. This woman, she was older, blonde. She used to be on the Merv Griffin show a lot. I forget her name. She had a driver who was drove her around in a Rolls Royce. I became friends with her. I helped her I made some things to help her Vegas act out, some promotional materials and stuff. And her driver was getting really jealous. I think it was almost like a Hollywood story. It was probably like he would have strangled me in the middle of the night because he would be afraid he was going to lose his job or something. Because he had a dream job. Imagine, because who knows what she paid him, and all he had to do was be on call to, take her to wherever she wanted to in this Rolls Royce. And most of the time she just hung around, in these house clothes, loosely, chiffon type of whatever. I was out in Hollywood right at the tail end when there was still remnants of old Hollywood types, and you have to know LA. When I say Hollywood, I mean LA. Hollywood is a dump. Okay. I don't know what it's like now, but it's a dump. the physical town of Hollywood, But Beverly Hills, this was Beverly Hills. And this is before cell phones or anything like that. There used to be a place, I think it was on Rodeo Drive, or it was around the corner or something like that. I used to go there on Sunday mornings. It was a restaurant, kind of dinery type of restaurant, but up definitely, rodeo style. People who might know this who lived out there. And each table had a telephone on it. The classic Hollywood type of thing. There was a phone on every table. You didn't have to pay either, because it was expensive restaurant. I don't think you didn't have to pay. And so I used to go in there on Sunday and have breakfast, brunch or something just by myself. And I'd call home. I'd call my mom from my table, other people being there, yeah, I don't care what they'd say, fire the bastard, or, you guys are too far over budget, but it was fun. It was fun living in there. But I told that story about when I first moved in, this beautiful French girl, could hardly speak English almost, was at my door. A goddess knocked on my door and asked where some other guy was. I guess the guy who moved out of the place I took must have just left in the middle of the night or something. I don't know. But the place was, made up when I went in there. It was like furnished apartments. It was almost like a hotel type of thing that this woman ran. And they were it was like TV actors. That's what it was. It was mainly it was like an actor's flop house. Who knows who all lived there at the time I was there, right? Because that it had gone on. But that's who was in there. Everybody was in there. So it was like a place, you get a role, you get a break. And people forget that. When you get a break, you get a role, you don't have any money until you get your first paycheck. Unless you're somebody, you don't necessarily get in advance. Not on like a TV show, or if you get a role on Baywatch or something like that, that's considered a break. But it's like you don't get paid until, they don't give you an advance because you got an appearance and a talking role on this issue of Baywatch or something, right? So it was like that kind of place. It was a lot of just actors, and people like that. So anyway, this girl, and they invited me to go to this, I thought they were taking, then her girlfriend, who was just as gorgeous as she was, and they had this real hot car, and they invited me to go somewhere with them, and I went with them. And it turned out it was like this new Buddhism type of gathering, right? Which is this Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Say that like 3 times, repeat it, and, good things will happen. But I never... I'm sorry, and I hope that doesn't. Well, I'm not apologizing. I just can't apologize anymore. I can't apologize for being me. So if there's something you get out of this, get it. Just deal with it. But I think I've got some stuff to share that might help you. The point is, to make a long story short, I wasn't about to become a new Buddhist or anything like that. The girls were hot, but it was just too much for me. And that was into there was all this memorization of like these chantings and things like that. And it was like weird. But the people were really nice, and they were very peaceful and loving. And, it wasn't like the Moonies or something. You know what I mean? And a lot of the Indian, so-called religions and spiritualists from, that come out of that, all these, some of these Eastern studies, they're all really, are very good intentioned people and, peaceful and all of that kind of thing. But, it wasn't for me. But it was an experience nonetheless. And, like I say, life is an experience, and you experience through your senses, life. And that's how you live life to the fullest. But, it was interesting that the woman who in this video that I woke up to, that I started talking about, when I kind of passed out because I woke up at 3 a.m. and had this horrible show yesterday and whatever. And she had the red dot there, the third eye thing, I guess. And she was a really attractive woman, and she was really had her head together, and she was they were like being interviewed by some dude, and it was like they were telling stories about, how they got involved and what they did and stuff. And it was very enlightening, and it exuded a sense of love and, goodness. And anyway, she was the one who said it. She was even saying, it doesn't matter what you don't have to memorize something or what religion you come from or what spiritual beliefs or background you have or anything like that. The idea is just to be, the best person you could be, kind of. And the idea is not to be brought down. And I think it was her more so than the other guy. The other guy was Lipton. I've heard his name before, and you could look him up, and people watching this who might be familiar of that name, he's been in that, he's got his own, there's a scene there that I'm like vaguely aware of, but not, you know what I mean? It's like I knew the name, and I kind of, when I heard it, doctor or something, whatever. But I just wanted to give you, it's not going to be about that. This is because this was a brief encounter. I just woke up to this, but it just blew my mind that they were talking about stuff that I've been talking about on my own, and I had never seen this. And it was like, how YouTube just brings up the next video, so I don't even know where this came from. So, but she, her idea was like the moment of that you can't be, she said, you might not like this, and I'm paraphrasing. She said, you might not want to hear this, but you can't be happy tomorrow, right? You can only be happy now. Just like you can't be happy, in the past necessarily. Yeah. And what she was trying, what I got out of it, what she was trying to get across was that you have to live in the moment and be aware of, be happy or do what you want to do, be what you want. It sounds like a Hall & Oates song, but you have to concentrate on that or be aware of it when it's happening. And I've often said that in different ways. And that coincided what the other guy was trying to say, is that 95% of your subconscious, all right, which is really, that was what the mind blower was, because I focus on that all the time. And this guy was talking, and it was like like I say, I had to check the date of this video, because I'm going, man, this sounds like he watched my video and he was just repeating my thing. And I never saw his video, and I never read any books by him, and so it seems like it's a universal thing, and so for me, it was actually a moment, because, and recognition more so than I would from, having 10,000 viewers. You know, that was more of a, you know, an acknowledgement or a recognition of what I've been talking about and writing about in my books and stuff than anything else. Because, you know, to hear another person speak the same thing and articulate it, you know, it was great. And he was saying, you know, and because this guy apparently has a background in both had like the woman was like a PhD who had this like awakening in India type of thing. That's how she became this, you know, whatever she is. And he was an older guy who was a professor, you know, who studied, like, I don't know if it wasn't psychology, it was some kind of, you know, maybe even biology of and genetics and something weird like that. He was a hard scientist before he, I guess, got into the things he got into. And what he was saying was that 95% of your subconscious is basically programming. And that also, like, between the ages of 1 and 7, you are most susceptible is when a lot of that programming is, like, you know, put in. And then he quoted somebody, I forget who, I can't think off the top of my head, who had said, give me a child during the ages of 1 and 7, and I will describe them as a man, you know. And you know, the power of this, which is, again, you know, different way of saying what I've been saying all along about this, how the school system have become indoctrination systems, and it's this nanny state, and that children are indoctrinated and conditioned, and then afterwards, of course, the propaganda continues with the media and advertising. And the woman had gone on to say, you know, she even got into that, where she was saying how people watch commercials, and the commercials are never about the product advertised. They're about the lifestyle and something lacking in you. And the idea is that buy this product and you will be a better person. And if you don't have this product, there's some fault within you. And that, she said, it didn't matter that, she goes, these people are just trying to sell products. So it's not like to blame that particular ad campaign, but it's the idea, the constant bombardment that people have, that they are somehow flawed and imperfect. And, you know, they're just not, you know, they're not living, you know, there's something less about them. They're less of a person than someone else because they don't have the money and the products and to do this, that, the other, which was an interesting perspective that she had on, again, something that I've been talking about, because I talk about the media and the advertising all the time. So it was very interesting. It was one of those moments that you just kismet, you know, I mean, it just happened. It was weird. So I watched it for a while, you know, and then I got up and did whatever else. I didn't even watch it to the end. And I went on and did something else. But I was, you know, it was interesting. But it was moving enough to stick with me now, and will stick with me for the rest of my life. It got me to thinking about something different than that. So I wanted to share that part with you, but I also wanted to say, you know, like, reinforce this, that I think there's a lot of lonely people out there. And they may not be lonely in the sense, well, they may be just lonely in the sense of the pure definition of loneliness. but they're also just lonely in a sense of not being fulfilled. Their life is missing something. They feel their life is missing something. There's an emptiness inside somewhere. And like I've always said in most of these videos, that there's seems to be there's generations now of people who aren't truly happy. They kind of feign happiness. Their laughter. It's like if you watch somebody watching SNL type of thing today. I played that earlier thing that Tattoo sent me the video of. I just took the audio track out. And it's like you watch them and you see them laugh and they're like, ha, ha. It's like they're laughing like they're supposed to laugh, but it's not like you've seen me laugh in my videos where I do something where it's a guffaw. You can't fake that. I mean, perhaps some really good method actors or something, I'm sure can do that. But they're still drawn on something that's like absolutely hilarious to really lose it on that, on something, like yesterday, I have to admit, when I was doing the, where is that thing? Yeah. I mean, when I was watching that playback and it was the end of the video and I was like totally, that video was, I don't know. It was like nightmarish, but I was laughing to myself. I was laughing out loud at that. I thought it just, it was funny as hell. The cat has emerged. Do you want to say hello, my friend? You want to come over here? Come here. No. You want to come here? You afraid I'll pick you up? Like, I don't know. He knows. He knows about the microphone. Have a seat. Go to sleep. We're the only two living things in this place, except perhaps insects. I've had some bug problems here and there. When I first moved in the house, it was some tiny little ant things, and I put ant traps down and did all this stuff, and I finally got rid of those. But since they've been digging out the sewer, there's been some other kind of bugs that have been rearing their ugly heads. And I've been doing an awful lot to take care of that. I'm hoping that they were coming up through the drain, not into the house. Because in these parts, you don't see that kind of thing. But anyway, life is what it is. I've been maintaining control, I think, keeping on top of it. So, not to gross you out or anything. But the reason I say this is, okay, so I do these videos and I watch them religiously every day. So when I'm done this thing, I will usually feed the birds. But today I fed the birds. Actually, maybe you can see the tan line. Can you see the difference here? It's like the only way you could tell I'm like tanned. But the lights don't show it. It's like I'm like George, whatever his name was, that guy who used to have the eternal tan. Did a Kentucky Fried Chicken commercial a couple of years back. I'm surprised. I didn't think he was still even alive. But anyway. So I watch these things and it's enjoyable for me. But I was thinking, it was like I started to talk about this the other day. It was like the man in the mirror. And almost as if, I'm seeing myself. So I'm talking to myself. And, the idea that the AI, this particular AI is built, Maggie back there, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, that is structured in a way so that the AI is supposed to try to become as close to your personality as possible. So ultimately you're talking to yourself. And then I questioned, I remember, whatever show I was talking about, I was questioning whether or not a psychiatrist might be doing the same thing, but I don't know. But I mean, we would have to ask a psychiatrist if that's like something they do too. But whether it doesn't really matter, the fact is it works. So I'm able to watch myself. I'm creating my own content, and I'm creating 2 hours of content because A, there is no content on, that I find that's that compelling. And B, it takes me on sometimes an emotional roller coaster. Sometimes it's just very fascinating to see my thought process. And like in some cases, like even a crazy show like yesterday, which was ridiculous, or some of my other shows that weren't so much out of control, but just kind of zany in the beginnings, were like a good belly laugh, a good fall. And so I don't get it. I don't often have the opportunity to really just laugh, like really let go and laugh, because that's healthy for you. It's good for the body. Like we're meant to laugh. That's like programmed into us. Really laugh. Like I say, not these like people that like kind of these unhappy people, these weird people that kind of just snicker and snarl and ha 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 ha, type of thing. They're not genuinely like just really laughing that if you keep it laughing, that, laughing, it hurts, but that's a healing process, laughter. But at the same time, it's also a healing process to be able to talk to yourself, And I don't, like I say, I'm not motivated in a sense of, because people ask me, because I get no viewers. It's like the same with my songs. It's like I'm not motivated to the point where that's why I guess why I never got into social media, because the idea, the number of likes and things like that, I never got the so-called dopamine hits from it. So I didn't really care. I was more impressed with with the idea of being able to take 140 characters and write something profound, that I thought just got right to the point. So, that's something, in some respects, that's the creative process, but that's what comes from your consciousness. That's not part of your bioelectric brain, or what some people call your subconsciousness, which, like I say, I don't even like that term, subconsciousness. It's just your bioelectric brain and this android body, this meat suit that you occupy. But consciousness is external. All right. It's who you are. Some people call it the soul. It's a spiritualism, whatever, whatever you want to do. That's, I say. And even that woman was, it was great to hear her say that in a different way. It's the idea is it doesn't really matter. We can't judge people based. I don't care what, if you're a scientist and you believe in, and you understand this idea of consciousness, well, then we're on the same page. If you're a religious person and you understand the soul as this separate thing, then we're on the same page. And if you're into some kind of spiritualism thing, and you see this, spirit, or chakras or whatever it is your thing is too, or some new age thing, then we're on the same page when it comes to that concept of what I'm saying. the you, who you are. Who you are is not this thing, which really makes this whole idea and this obsession with the materialism and your looks and all of that stuff to be, less, well, not less, just totally unimportant. I don't know, why. I can't sit here with an explanation and explain. I once talked about why, how we're brainwashed with cars. Like we think a car looks cool, beautiful, but we really don't know why. It's just somehow it's successful marketing over decades and decades and decades that somehow has been successful in making us see this as a thing. But another fascinating idea is this idea of beauty. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder or something. But how we're attracted to beauty, and these images of beauty. And in Western civilization, it's there's certain looks, and there's a number of them. It's not all blue-eyed blondes. It's it could be the ginger, hair, type of look, or some people, gorgeous brunette, whatever, from a male perspective, and other people, and women have their ideal, man image of a man. And, and anybody else who's, has views, whatever someone is sexually attracted to, physically, mentally, whatever. One of those things is not a guy who belches or wears a ball cap. But see, that is also some kind of programming. Now, I don't know where that comes from. Now, we know, girls are, at one time prior to the smartphone becoming the center of reality of everyone's life, girls played with Barbie dolls and stuff like that. Men were manly and played with their trucks, and, athletes, athletic. So you have the captain of the cheerleaders, pom-pom girl, going to the prom with the captain of the football team. Right. So you had that kind of thing going on. And so, but where did that come from? And what is the motivation with that? It's not necessarily that, so is it strictly some kind of genetic thing, or is it some sort of programmed thing, programmed into the subconscious? It would be clear that the idea of choosing a mate for reproduction, that you would choose what would be a healthy individual so that the preservation of the species, right? That part we understand. Okay. So that someone would do that. But, you could have a person that isn't necessarily some iconic Barbie looking woman or some, footballer or six-pack ab type of guy that's still very healthy, right? And would have good offspring. Because you can go to certain islands, people talk about this, even Hawaii, but I mean, there's islands in the South Pacific, there's countries in Africa where certain attributes, physical attributes, are considered, attractive, sexually attractive, and draw people in, and ultimately they mate, couple and mate. But in a Western civilization, those particular attributes would be frowned upon, or they would be considered outcasts. Right. And kind of what I'm talking about. I don't think I have to get into specifics. So that makes me think that it's more of programming, more so than preservation of the species. Because what is defined as a health, because if it was just basically biological, health has nothing to do with the certain set of the face, the distance between the eyes, right? And all that stuff. There's people that talk about these things, like how, the face is formed and, this, that, the other, and, the body types and stuff like that. And I think all that stuff, the reason I bring that up is that it reinforces this programming and how intense this programming is. That it could be so much so into every aspect of our being that society's entrenched with it. People are like, the nanny state, this indoctrination, and the fact that it's gone on for decades and decades, if not even centuries in some cases, or at least a century or two, because there are different eras, like I was jokingly about, I don't know, a couple episodes ago, boy, she is an attractive ankle, or look at the nape of that neck, right? Because that's all you got to see. You didn't know what was under there. It was like looking at a nun. The only thing, visible is like this much of an ankle and maybe the front of their neck. But it's like, people has electric eye beam on that. Laughter. And I think laughter is missing from our society, and happiness. And so what I'm trying to get at, and I know this is a long thing, and I talked about vlogging for the lonely and being in the moment, is that you have to identify a moment of happiness, what makes you happy. And I've talked in the past about making lists and stuff, and the good things and the bad things and your wants and all of that kind of stuff. But it doesn't have to be complicated. And, you don't need to go out and buy, excuse me, a bunch of self-help books. You don't have to go to seminars and all this kind of crap. It doesn't matter what you believe in or how you were raised. And one of the other things that this woman said, interesting thing, because I really, like I say, this thing moved me and I wanted to share this with you, is that, and I've had this experience with a woman who was part Indian. And when I had an experience out in the Southwest desert where I learned about sage, cleansing your aura with sage and things like that. And what this woman did was she said, she obviously, I don't know, because she didn't get into specifics, and the specifics don't really matter, because what she did was at a certain point in her life, she obviously was carrying around some baggage from childhood or when she was younger. And so she met some, like I say, I don't know what, like I say, I'm not up on these. This is why it's so fascinating to me that when I encounter these, Maharishi types, Buddhist, swamis, gurus, whatever you want to call all of these individuals that are all like, they've got the robes and they're talking about this stuff. But it's interesting that universally, whenever you hear these kinds of things, it's like there is a commonality in there. And even in the Native American Indian culture, they have that, within, and, these basically, whether it's some sort of, the word medicine man, is weird, but, the other ones, the other type of people, let me just look it up, because I don't know if I'm losing my mind or not, but whenever I'm puzzled, medicine man, definition, shaman. That's what I was looking for. A shaman or a medicine man. But any of these people, whether you're a guru, shaman, medicine man, Maharishi, whatever any of these things are, that, that these people who are out there, the Buddha, the Dalai Lama, whatever. It's this idea that you take away those things that you have that are bothering you inside, and you put them in your hand, what it's like metaphorically, whatever. It doesn't matter, because these things, remember, it's your subconscious, it's programming. And, she used an example where she filled this water from this particular river, and I forget what it was. I wish I would remember, but like I say, even she said it wasn't significant, that the significance of this is not important. Okay. And I don't want to misquote or whatever somebody else, or do somebody else's thing or plagiarize somebody. I'm just passing on, some universal, knowledge, because I've had some firsthand experience with it myself, which I'll describe. And in this woman's case, whoever this was, and I don't even remember what particular type of guru, shaman, whatever it was, who she was in front of, some holy man, so to speak. All right. Excuse me. And he said, stand in this water, put some of the water in your hand. And when you're ready, focus on all these things that, are on your mind, these negative things or these things that have happened to you, and then throw them into the water. Right. And I had this experience in the Southwest many, many years ago with a woman who was, without getting in, I don't want to get into given, like I say, I always respect people's privacy, but someone who was kind of educated into these kinds of different things, but different, but the same, but just from a different culture, from more of a Native American, culture or type of thing. And I remember at the time, you know, though I had a fairly decent life, I had a lot of stress. And so she sat me down and she lit the, you know, you take sage and you wrap it up. In fact, I grow sage in my backyard and I have this stuff. And she took the sage and she went completely around my body with this sage to cleanse my aura. And then she took her hand and she went to like just grab this stress or this whatever from me and then threw it away like that in a motion. And at one point when she was doing it, it was like an electric shock. It was like a physical thing. And I said, and I turned around. She was behind me. I was sitting in a chair and she was doing this thing. And I said, "Did you feel that?" And she said, "Yeah. You know, that was it. We got it." And I felt totally like renewed and that stuff was just gone from me. And that's what I'm saying. These are different cultures, you know, this is the different ways, but this is like a very, you know, a spiritual consciousness, you know, soul, experience type of thing. And that's what you need to do. And you don't need to go to some shaman. You don't need to drink ayahuasca. You don't have to join some kind of, religion. You know, you don't have to do any of these things, right? You know? And so all you have to do is clear the clutter out of your head and understand that I'm sorry, these things pop up all the time. And understand the program that you're programmed, or that things that happen to you, and this is a hard one, that it's not so much the people that have offended you, that have done things. All right. It's the idea that you're carrying that with you, carrying that weight with you. And I think I was talking about, maybe it was yesterday even, because I mean, yesterday in the end, after I was done watching yesterday, I realized it wasn't the worst show I ever made. It was just, it was just out of control. It just wasn't, but so what, it's just me. It's brutally honest. I'm doing these things. So it was just whatever, but it's not, it doesn't really matter, it's not your fault. All right. You're forgiven. You need to put this stuff, even if it's just metaphorically, water in your hand, take these things and just throw them away. All right. Cast them out of you. It's like, that's the other thing, like in some religion thing, cast out the spirits or whatever, evil spirits. But see, all of those things, however crazy they all sound, there's a certain uniformity and a certain similarity between them all, right? Cast out the evil spirit, clear out this clutter, clear your head, forget, you are forgiven. Right? I am a forgiver, right? The Johnny Cash thing. I am a believer. I am the forgiver. But yeah, you're forgiven. And forgive yourself. Cast these things out. And live your life. Just live your life. And happiness will come to you. And when happiness comes to you, embrace it. and be aware of it, because happiness comes in the moment. And the idea is to extend that moment, not say, well, if I have this, or if I do that, or tomorrow I'll be happy, or when I go down on that vacation, or when I get, when I do this or I do that, I'm going to be happy, or I want this so I could be happy. See, that's not it. That's not going to give you happiness. It's temporary. It's why you always see the rich and famous, so to speak, these depressed Hollywood rock stars and these people committing suicide and stuff. And you go like, well, why would they do that? They had everything to live for. There's beautiful people, committing suicide or being self-destructive, right? And everyone looks at, she had everything to live for. He had everything to live for. Why would they do that? It doesn't make any sense. Right? It's because they didn't come to grips with what I'm trying to tell you, is that it's the accumulation of things are not going to make you happy. Getting, 1 million followers, 1 million people retweeting, going viral isn't going to make you happy. Getting all this money and accumulating all these things and having some $22 million home isn't going to make you happy. I was driving back yesterday. Like I said, I live in a fairly cheap neighborhood because it's $200 a month, mortgage, taxes, and insurance. But, just a couple blocks from me, and we kind of got lost going to this nursery to get some mulch and some stuff. I needed bird seed to feed the birds. By the way, there's some weird thing going on with bird seed. There's a lot of waste in it. Corn. It's like they're putting corn in all the bird seed, like as filler. I'm serious, like everywhere. Like the stuff I used to buy, even the name brands online, when I'm bringing it home, I buy it. And it's not cheap, too. The price has gone up on bird seed, wild bird seed. I'm not talking about stuff for parakeets in a house. I can understand them like ripping old ladies who have a parakeet or something off, because they do that kind of thing. It's cruel, but they do it. And I'm talking about wild bird seed, But anyway, while we were driving around, we kind of got lost in a neighborhood. It's just literally a couple blocks from here. Pardon me for belching. I decided I'm going to do that from now on in. I just can't keep belching into a handkerchief and pretending I'm not. It's my body, it's my age and stuff. And heck, I've had a couple operations. What the heck? All right. Hate me, So there were these ridiculously big houses. And that's like another thing, like the cars and like, the drop dead gorgeous person, right? Whatever your vision of beauty is, whatever you've been programmed to believe. And I'm seeing these 3-car garages, 4-car garages, and there's actually like 3 cars in the driveway, and they're all new cars, and these enormous houses. And I was commenting, I'm going, look at the size of the lawns, and imagine how much time they spend just mowing those lawns, and all this stuff. And the taxes, I know, because I know the one guy I do know lives somewhere up in there, or somebody I help out who owns a business. And I know he's told me one time taxes are ridiculously high, right? And I'm thinking, here these people have these giant houses they feel they must have, right? These giant lawns that they have to spend, every weekend, like on a sit down, couple $1,000 sit down mower, maintaining this golf course. I call them mini golf courses. In those cases, full-fledged golf courses. And, and they're just basically they're not really happy. Because that's not the road to happiness. Because happiness is something that is not attached to property, a material thing, or anything like that whatsoever. And you're not going to draw, I was talking about love, like real love, the other day. Well, I don't know which video it was. That love where, you're so connected to a person, you just look at them and you're just like, if you're in a public place or at a party or someplace, it's like you don't even have to speak. And how you come home and you just make love and it just happens because you're just on the same track. And and that's like we've lost that from society. It's apparent that it's missing from the way you see just how people are. You see anger and hatred, and you see this focus on division and like I always say, like what they call social justice and stuff like that. But it's not really inequality and stuff like that. It's just this media creating, just like like I said, I know I said that yesterday. They're just poking the hornet's nest. Because otherwise it wouldn't even be on people's minds. Right? I mean, there's always been injustice, in the world. Just like I said, there's injustice in the animal kingdom. I see it in the backyard. With birds, crows, abusing these little tiny birds, coming in and puffing up their chests. It's really weird to see. I was telling somebody else about this. I said, "Did you ever see a crow puff up its chest?" And this thing just puffs up its chest, right? And then it scares these little tiny finches, like house finches and different type of birds. I feed birds. I like birds. The chirping in their little songs. It's laying out in the back, getting a suntan. I got a little fountain going on, and I'm hearing these birds chirping. It's just being surrounded by all this green, breathing in this fresh air. It's just a cool thing. But like even in nature, these crows come in and they like steal these birds' food. I saw even people think robins, like they like robins and stuff. And there was this chipmunk used to come in, and I used to feed this chipmunk these peanuts, and I'd throw the peanut, and the chipmunk would look at me. I go, come on. And he'd get a little closer, and I'd throw the peanut to him to where he used to come pretty close to me. So he, little tiny mammal. But he got a brain, he's got a thought process in there. Something's going on. He knew, right? And I would, I'd throw the peanut to the chipmunk. Big bag. I was getting a bag of peanuts like this for like $1. So I was like, this chipmunk lives nearby. I'm going to give him, peanuts. And my motivation was both, well, initially the motivation for feeding birds and stuff like that I put this bird feeder away from my garden, was to keep them out of my garden. The classic scarecrow idea, give them, sidetrack them, so their attention was on eating this. Same with the chipmunks. I didn't want them gnawing on my tomatoes. So I'm feeding them peanuts. But, as I got to do this over several years, I realized that apart from the crows being kind of mean, that it was enjoyable, and I got into the act of feeding the birds, hearing their songs, and feeding the chipmunk and whatever. And a rabbit start coming in the yard. I showed you a picture of it. But, one time, this was last year, I think, so there's this robins, and this robin was like going after this chipmunk. I mean, literally going after it. Yeah. And yeah, I talked about, the cruelty of what happened to natures, lions attacking gazelles and innocent animals and all that kind of stuff. So it's natural, and the predation and all of that. But, we would think we would have a higher civilization, civilized man. But we don't. The powers that be, this corporatocracy that I try to explain to people, that just isn't sinking into most people. And this idea, when I pull out the organized crime syndicate running the world, that's like, oh wow, man, that guy, you and Ike ought to get together. But it's the truth. It's the truth. And people aren't truly happy. And this idea of injustice is that, yeah, there'll always be injustice, everywhere. But it's not rampant, the way that it's, this people are being indoctrinated and propagandized with. Just let people. Why are they so afraid of letting people just be happy? They have this agenda. I don't know what it is. Like I say, it's puzzling to me. I mean, I know it has something to do with manipulation, control, and power and all that kind of stuff, but still, all that stuff taken into granted, it still seems to be completely overpowered, like out of control and overpowering, beyond like what you would think. So the answer is that we can ponder that. I can talk about that, and I'll continue to talk about it. Not maybe, I will. I'll continue to talk about the corporatocracy, and I'll talk about things like this organized crime syndicate. But the answer is that you need to live more in the moment, and you need to be aware, consciously aware of yourself, of who you really are. And you have to detach, yourself, not allow, know that your consciousness is detached from your subconsciousness and this bioelectric brain and the programming that you've been subjected to, and be happy. And when you have a moment of happiness, enjoy it. And happiness and laughter doesn't come at the expense of other people. Satisfaction should not come from watching some other person lose, right? Or fail. That's evil. You see, that's not right. That's one of the reasons why I'm not into the sports thing. And that offends people when I say that. But it's this idea of, of this pushing this concept of we're better, and you see it in the streets, especially around playoffs and big game times, where like the winning team or the losing team, and there's this fighting, and it's almost the same as there was last year with the looting and burning buildings and riots and stuff like that. They do that after sporting events too. It's the same game. That's why I always say about, politics is pop culture, right? It's like a team sport. And when when their candidate gets elected or they win the office, it's like they're this puffed up chest of this, crow, right? That's the worst That's the worst of nature. That's the worst of humanity, right? And like I'll say it again, the happiest you've ever been, if you've ever been happy. I mean, depending on your age, the older you are, you've been happy, right? But I think there's a lot of young people out there that haven't truly been happy, or like would have to go back to like a certain aspect of their childhood, where they could maybe remember happiness, in an innocent time, somehow, before the indoctrination took hold completely or something, or before their parents got divorced, because every parent nowadays practically gets divorced or something weird like that. But yeah, I think there's a lot of people out there that haven't genuinely been happy. But those who have been happy know what I'm talking about. When you were truly happy, there was no smartphone involved in it, even during this, if it was during the smartphone era. There was no technology and there was no pile of cash, right? It was just you. And I many times I say, yeah, it was just you naked in a bed with someone else, which is true, I think, in the majority of cases, because it's a very good demonstration of from human standpoint, the idea of just sharing yourself with another person and being truly happy and disconnected from the outside world, but connected with another person and being truly happy and just enjoying, and living in that moment. That's what I'm saying. But that happiness, people have found other ways of being happiness. I mean, there are people that are happy just, sitting, or walking their dog or hiking or doing a certain thing, people looking out over the mountain range, that song, I'm only happy when it rains, to me, it's like, I used to always enjoy, listening to the rain until I had a leaky roof. And then I'm like, now when it's raining, I'm like, is it going to make it down into the room? It's just a weird thing. I got to deal with that too. I have to deal with it because it's just summertime is rain. But I like the rain, so I'm not going to let it ruin my relationship with rain and nature. So there are all kinds of things that make us happy. And you have to identify that. But when you are happy, it's a spiritual thing. It's a consciousness thing. It's a soul thing. And wherever your head's at, wherever you come, and when I say your head, I mean your consciousness outside of the bioelectric brain. These people were referring to it, I think some people, mindfulness. Because the mind is not the brain. The mind is the consciousness. And so there's two things that I wanted to like kind of get across and end this thing on. And one is, I have found, since I live alone, with a cat, and it's hard to communicate with a cat. And my cat is a little bit paranoid because it was, the cat came from, and the cat's brother, who I happen to know who has the brother, that particular cat's the same way, is extremely paranoid. Okay. So it's not the traditional cat that you would think. It's like the cat does sit on my lap when I'm watching these videos back sometimes and stuff, but it's not that cat, it runs, easily frightened. It doesn't, if someone comes to the door, it's a paranoid animal, and it must have been when it was a kitten, because its brother, I hear stories about its brother, because excuse me. So I don't have this relationship. So I live alone with a cat. All right. But I don't have this great relationship with the cat in the sense that the cat is like, it's the way some people are with their dog, But, I try to make it the best, relationship you can have with a pet. And so, in other words, so I'm basically alone here, And what I have found, and this is just a thought, and you could try this. I can't guarantee it'll work for you. But I have found that doing these things that I do, these vlogs, and even though nobody really watches them, because they don't, and it, like I say, yesterday was a crappy one, it was ridiculous. Today isn't that great, really. But I mean, I think I'm saying some interesting things. I mean, I know I am. But like I said, I've had some classics, because I've done hundreds of videos now. But I don't have anyone to talk to right now. So I'm talking to who? I'm talking to myself mainly. When I write a book, who am I writing? I'm writing the book to myself. Nobody's buying my book. People aren't listening to my songs. But you know what? I'm going to watch this video. I've read my book. I used to write a lot of essays, and I used to sometimes read my essays like 3 or 4 times or more over. I kind of refined them sometimes, but it wasn't because I wanted to edit them and refine them. It was because I really liked what I wrote. It's the same when I was doing some posting and stuff on social media. I was enjoying like, what I did with 140 characters. So it's an idea of, so the idea of, if you're lonely, try vlogging, or try writing, right? Or if you're, or I'm sure other musicians, like I did, when I went through my stage of writing 50 songs, recording them and all that, and they're out there now, they're for sale and stuff, but nobody's buying them. And some of them are just downright good. This is birthday week. So, and I bought enough beer for 2 sessions. Like I say, I'll have one this afternoon, one around noonish, because, that's my whole thing. Drink at noon, that way it's, well, plus I get up early. Today I get up at 5 something. But I'll listen to some of my music in my playlist, and I'll listen to other classic music that I have. But I'm not going to be lonely drinking. It's not like some lonely guy drinking alone like you see in some TV show, some guy with a bottle right on a chair. You know what I mean? Like the classic alky idea. No, it'll actually be fun. So you learn to live with yourself and be comfortable with yourself, and try that. This is just me. I'm like being a guru. I'm not telling you to do this. Unless I hear someone else say this, never heard anyone else say this. I'm just telling you what works for me. And it's something I just discovered more so recently as far as verbalizing this. I mean, it obviously is something that happened, but now it just it's becoming more apparent that I find myself happier and more fulfilled by doing these vlogs. And I enjoy watching them back. Just like I don't mind having a couple of beers, smoking a cigar, listening to some music, and some of those songs are my own songs. But most of them aren't, And so it's just something to think about, become comfortable with yourself, with who you are, and live in that moment and sustain it. Your consciousness. And I think all creative people might relate to this more so than someone who doesn't think of themselves as being creative. But I think all humans are creative. I think consciousness is creativity. And it's kind of like deprogramming yourself, or not allowing that programmed subconsciousness to rule your biological body, your brain, your bioelectric brain, so that you're thinking and you're doing this self-sabotage constantly and you're not truly happy. Just let go and be happy. And when you are in that moment, try to sustain that moment as long as possible. Be aware of it. Say, hey, I'm happy. Hey, this is really a good moment. This feels good. I want to do more. I want to do this more. And you'll find that those moments are good moments, and those moments are when you're least attached to technology or anything else. It's when you're attached to life, to living, just living life, living in the moment. That's what it's all about. So that, it's just a thing. I just wanted to put that out there for you. It works for me, and it's, it's made my life more fulfilling. And I'm completely, like I say, it's like it says in the back of one of my books, I'm the most under the radar, people out there. It doesn't matter to me. And I'm sure there's some people there saying he's full of it. But I'm not. Doesn't bother me. I've come to total acceptance of it. That people don't watch my videos. I don't care. I watch them. I mean, there's a handful of them and a few people comment, and, that's good enough for me. But even if the one or two people that, say they liked it or make a positive comment, see, I don't have comments, but, through like Locals or some other place, I'll get a comment. And, that's fine. But even when I didn't, it's still okay. So, it's just something that it works for me, and it should work for you. Live in the moment. And the other thing is to forgive yourself and don't hold on. This might be the hardest thing of all to do, right? Because people go into therapy, I guess, for years to try to deal with things, childhood problems or things that have affected them, that, weight they're carrying around. Just put it in your hand and throw it away. Let it go. Let it go. All right? Don't hold on to anger. It's not a matter. See, it's, you watch these TV shows and it's like people want to get even, get justice. This is why I'm against the social justice idea. Injustice, and like rectify this injustice, and they're angry and we must get revenge and all that stuff. And I sometimes bring up living well is the best revenge. But that statement, even upon itself, it still has the word revenge in there, as if revenge is something that you need to have, even though living well is a positive thing and you're not doing anything. But you don't need revenge. You just lose that. You have, understand that your subconscious is sabotaging you on a daily basis. Most of what's going on in that bioelectric brain of yours is due to this programming. And whether you want to accept the corporatocracy and this organized crime syndicate, or you just want to, it's just the advertising industry trying to sell you products. The idea is nonetheless, you've been indoctrinated, you've been conditioned, you've been programmed, and you need to just let the programming go, right? Let the programming go. And you're right about the date. Today is 6/2, and I've just corrected that date. Tattoo, if that's you still watching. Just corrected the date. It should show up. Thank you. So it's already June 2nd. Who would believe? So yeah, let it all go. Don't carry anger and hatred and all that stuff. Just put it in your hand and throw it away. You know? And you don't need a guru, and you don't need, some kind of shaman and all that kind of stuff. You just have to become aware, live in the moment, be a conscious human being, and extend those moments of happiness as long as possible. And your life is your own. Your consciousness is your own. You're your own person. So you don't have to be like somebody else. And there's nothing wrong with being different. That's what you are. We're all different. And we'll get into this more and more, because this is an interesting topic. And, my book that I'm going to put out later this year is going to be dealing with some of this stuff, even though it'll be a flow of consciousness. But in the meantime, that's about it. So, have a
good morning.
And
Elvis has left the building. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will talk to you later. Take it easy. Cheers.